Hello and welcome to my Leadership Behavior Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Edbert Abebe. Today's episode is both a tribute and a timely leadership reflection. In the wake of the recent passing of Pope Francis, we pause to examine not just the legacy he leaves behind, but some of the leadership behaviors that defined his papacy. Regardless of one's faith background, the way he exercised leadership offers powerful insights for anyone navigating complex challenges in today's world. As I often say, leadership is not about titles, positions, or authority. It's an activity. It's the act of mobilizing people to face their toughest problems and to make progress on what matters most. Pope Francis embodied this. He led not by clinging to former power, but by consistently engaging in courageous adaptive action, challenging entrenched systems, engaging difficult conversations, and elevating compassion as a leadership value. In today's episode, we will explore 7 significant leadership actions Pope Francis took during his papacy. Each one is a masterclass in adaptive leadership, showing us how to lead with humility, courage, and clarity in uncertain times. Leadership is best learned not just from theory, but from observing others in action. And today, we are going to learn from one of the most influential moral leaders of our time. Are you ready? Let's get into it. Action 1 that Pope Francis, took. He simplified the papal lifestyle. From the moment he assumed the papacy, Pope Francis made a deliberate decision to reject opulence and embrace humility. Not for show, but as a living example of servant leadership, choosing to live in a modest guest house instead of the apostolic palace, driving a humble Ford Focus, and wearing plain black shoes rather than the traditional red. He modeled a kind of leadership that prioritized authenticity over appearance. His choices sent a clear message. Credibility is earned not by titles or symbols of power, but by consistency between words and actions. One of the most powerful expressions of his leadership philosophy is captured in this statement. A leader must smell like the sheep. This metaphor underscores the importance of being present among the people you serve, sharing in their daily lives, listening to their concerns, and understanding their struggles firsthand. In doing so, a leader builds trust, connection, and influence that no formal position or privilege can replace. Pope Francis reminds us that leadership rooted in humility, empathy, and proximity is not only human, it's more impactful. True leaders don't stand above, they walk alongside. Action 2 by Pope Francis. He launched major financial reforms of the Vatican Bank. One of the most courageous acts of leadership is confronting the parts that no one wants to touch, the mess, the dysfunction, the deeply rooted resistance. Pope Francis showed exactly this kind of bravery when he took on the long-standing corruption and mismanagement within the Vatican finances. Despite deep institutional resistance, he pushed forward reforms, creating new oversight bodies, hiring independent auditors, and prioritizing transparency in financial reporting, actions that shook the status quo. His leadership wasn't about quick fixes or popularity. It was about doing what was right, even when it was painfully slow and politically risky. As he once joked, reforming Rome is like cleaning the things of Egypt with a toothbrush, a powerful acknowledgement of how difficult real adaptive leadership can be. But he leaned into the discomfort rather than avoiding it. The principle here is clear. Don't shy away from the hard parts of leadership. Face them, own them, walk through them. True leadership shows up not just when things are inspiring, but when they are inconvenient and costly. Action 3 that he took. He opened dialogue on difficult social issues. Pope Francis never said the church was abandoning its teachings, but he changed the tone. He opened conversations about women's roles, family life, and compassion toward all. He conveyed synods not to dictate answers, but to encourage genuine debate, trusting that the path to meaningful change begins with open conversations. This drew criticism, with some suggesting his reluctance to issue firm decisions caused confusion. But in truth, adaptive leadership often begins not with answers, but with courageous spaces for exploration. When values, traditions, and identities are in tension, imposing quick fixes is not only unhelpful, it's dangerous. Dialogue allows people to engage, wrestle with complexity, and become part of the solution. An important leadership principle for authority figures to note is that you don't always need to provide all the answers. What you must do is create the conditions for truth to surface through honest, respectful conversations. That's how deep, lasting transformation begins. Action 4 that Pope Francis took. He advanced synodality, shared leadership. A transformative aspect of Pope Francis's leadership was his commitment to synodality, a model of shared decision-making rooted in deep listening, collaboration, and collective discernment. Rather than reinforcing top-down control from the Vatican, he empowered local bishops to consult their communities, engage in open dialogue, and participate meaningfully in shaping the Church's path forward. He famously stated, "Synodality is what the Lord expects of the Church in the third millennium." This approach decentralizes authority and promotes a leadership culture that is more agile, grounded, and inclusive. It recognizes that wisdom and insight do not reside solely at the top, but emerge from honest conversations and the collective experience of the people. Synodality isn't just a church principle, it's a powerful leadership paradigm for any organization navigating complexity and change. And action 5. He met with refugees and washed their feet. One of Pope Francis's most powerful acts wasn't delivered from a podium. It was done on his knees. On Holy Thursday, instead of following tradition by washing the feet of priests, he chose to wash the feet of Muslim refugees, women, prisoners, and migrants, those whom society often sidelines or forgets. In a world where leadership is often equated with visibility, status, or command, this moment turned the paradigm upside down. A global leader kneeling before the powerless, not to be served, but to serve. This wasn't just symbolic, it was a profound act of solidarity. It sent a clear message. Real leadership lives among the people, especially the vulnerable. He reminded the world that dignity is not earned by status, but affirmed by love and attention. He made this statement, we must open ourselves to others. We must share our lives in order to heal. And this reveals a leadership philosophy that values empathy over ego and relationship over rank. The question for leaders today is, are we showing up for the people who need us the most? Are we willing to serve in ways that disrupt comfort, flip hierarchies, and make others feel profoundly seen, valued, and loved? Action 6 by Pope Francis. He addressed clerical sexual abuse crisis head on. An important test of leadership is what we do in the face of failure, especially when the failure lies within our own houses. For decades, the Catholic Church struggled with the devastating crisis of clerical sexual abuse, and for too long, responses ranged from denial to cover-up. Pope Francis, while not perfect in his handling, made a decisive break from this pattern by choosing to confront the crisis head-on. Rather than hiding behind institutional walls, he summoned bishops from around the world to the Vatican for an unprecedented summit, forcing global church leadership to face hard truths. He implemented stronger child protection measures, established new procedures for investigating bishops who failed to act, and most importantly, publicly acknowledged the church's collective failure. His powerful statement was, "We showed no care for the little ones. We abandoned them." And this was more than words. It was the voice of a leader choosing truth over image, repentance over reputation. This kind of leadership is rare because it's hard. It's about stepping into the mess, taking responsibility, prioritizing justice, and healing over self-preservation. The lesson for leaders across all fields is this: you don't restore trust by avoiding failure. You restore it by owning it, addressing it, and leading the way forward. Action 7, he built bridges with other faiths. In an era marked by polarization, suspicion, and religious extremism, Pope Francis modeled a leadership style rooted in radical bridge building. He consistently affirmed that religious difference should never be a justification for hatred, violence, or exclusion. Instead of retreating into the safety of tribal identity, he stepped into spaces of deep difference, not to compromise conviction, but to elevate our shared humanity. Pope Francis made a bold call for peace, coexistence, mutual respect by visiting synagogues and mosques. He made interfaith dialogue a cornerstone of his papacy. He reached out to Christian denominations long separated by history and doctrine, declaring that unity does not require uniformity. Time and again, he embodied his belief that God is the God of peace, not the God of war. This is adaptive leadership in action, resisting the easy comfort of like-minded echo chambers and choosing instead to engage across boundaries. It requires leaders to confront their own communities, fears, and prejudices, and to expand the boundaries of moral imagination. Bridge building is not soft, it's courageous. It's not about erasing difference, but about choosing relationship over rivalry. I'll leave you some reflections I want you to think about. Number one, what are the tough, messy truths in our organizations we might be avoiding? 2, how often do we as leaders silence hard conversations when instead we could lean into them? 3, are we holding decision-making power under the guise of efficiency or control, or are we intentionally cultivating environments where leadership is shared, voices are heard, and collective wisdom guides the way forward? True leadership doesn't fear shared authority, it builds it. 4, are we willing to serve in ways that make others feel seen, valued, and loved? 5, are we brave enough to confront the parts of our organizations that betray our stated values? 6, in a world increasingly defined by us versus them mentalities, are we willing to be leaders who build bridges even when it costs us? Or are we reinforcing words that protect our identity but diminish our humanity? I'll leave my final thoughts with you. Pope Francis showed us leadership that wasn't about personal power. It was about transformation, service, and hope. His leadership teaches us that real change happens when leaders adapt, when they listen, when they love, even when it's hard. Leadership today isn't just about knowing what the answers should be. It's about adapting, listening, risking change, leading beyond your comfort zone, just like Pope Francis did. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this has been helpful. I'd like you to look forward to the next episode. And also, I'd like you to share with someone. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and keep the conversation going. Until next time, I'd like you to lead with purpose and heart. Once again, I'm Edbert Abebe. Thank you so much.